Bill Cassidy appeared today on State of the Union on CNN, and his answers were perplexing. First of all, it's great that he's recognized that we do have a climate issue. It's great that he recognized that climate change is real. But one of the first things that he had to say is like, oh, but realize that we in the United States have dramatically, even as populations has increased, dramatically reduced pollution, dramatically reduced the amount of CO2 that we put in the air, because instead of burning coal, we are burning a different fossil fuel that is throwing CO2 anyway in the air, natural gas. So he's trying to migrate that what we're going to do is burn natural gas. We are still going to be polluting. But then he gets interested in his answer. He goes ahead and he says, but you know, the real polluters right now are China. They are putting out more carbon dioxide than we are. And he wants China to pay for putting out all that carbon dioxide. What he fails to understand, firstly, is that the United States have been, since 1750, has thrown so much carbon into the air that it's going to take a long time before China could match it. And when you're asking other countries to reduce their use of their throwing of carbon into the air, you have to realize that you enrich yourself with the Industrial Revolution by throwing that much more carbon in the air than all of these other countries have combined. So therefore, it is insensitive, it is wrong, it is unfair, it is selfish to ask other countries that they must reduce at the same percentage level that the United States is doing to save the country, to save the earth, because we have already enriched ourselves by throwing that much CO2 into the air. Now, I want you to listen to what he has to say, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Past summer of how the climate crisis is going to start to impact their lives. It really already is. In just the last few months, Louisianans, those in your state, experienced sweltering heat. There have been record water temperatures in the Gulf, other extreme weather events. You're representing a state on the front lines of this crisis. Did the last few months drive home the threat of climate change for you? And what are you doing about it?
Well, a couple of things about that. I'm aware that my state has lost land about the size of Delaware, so we're no stranger to this issue. You got to have a rational response. What people sometimes forget is that emissions from the United States are now lower than they were in 2005. Lower, despite a bigger economy, many more people, et cetera. Why? Because natural gas has replaced coal. The drivers of international increased CO2 emissions, Asia, but principally China. Now, if we're going to have a rational solution, then we need to address China's emissions. I'm about to introduce legislation for a foreign pollution fee. If China does not want to enforce international norms for the environment, then, and they want to import a good to us, a good that we would not produce here because of the associated air pollution, we'll put a little bit of a fee, if you will, to pay back the United States for the harm that China is doing. So one, I'm going to continue to promote things like natural gas to replace coal worldwide. And secondly, try to specifically address China's particular role in driving increased air pollution.
That could drive up prices a little bit for Americans. Do you think you can get 60 votes in the Senate for that proposal?
No, not if you, Casey, if I may. We already have tariffs on those Chinese goods. And so what this would do would replace the tariffs that we have now with a tariff related to the pollution that they are not paying to reduce. By the way, I'll point out, we are already paying for that pollution. About 25% of certain classes of pollutants in the Western United States come from China. It blows over the Pacific. We're paying now. Let's just make the Chinese pay instead of us.
So, Bill Cassidy, Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican of Louisiana, he also wants to put a tariff on China if they continue to put more carbon in the air than we do. We have to realize China is much larger than we are, so their per capita CO2 emission is less than us. Per capita is less than us, but we are asking them, you must reduce it to lower levels than we are as a country. Are you kidding me? All China has to reply, and all the countries which America is saying, you guys have to reduce at the same percentage that we are, or to something in that nature. It is completely irresponsible to ask that developing countries and countries that didn't put what we have placed in the air. Now, when it talks about tariff, an intelligent question by the host: if you increase tariff on these products coming from China because of this emission issue, is it going to cost the American people more money? And he said, oh, no, not necessarily, because instead of charging them the tariffs, we're charging them from bringing their products in. We'll just cut that tariff and then have the tariff for their misuse of, or their throwing of carbon into the air. Wait a minute. So you're saying you're going to have a neutral penalty? How is that extra money that we would have hoped to use locally, assuming that we're saying they're not doing their part to increase, to even cut our consumption or our throwing of carbon in the air less? How is that going to make a difference? Again, the answers from these Republican politicians generally makes no sense, nor does it have any value in morality? Does it have any value in economics? Does it have any value in anything other than them saying we must find some way to continue burning fossil fuels? The truth of the matter is, asking China or any other country to match what we are doing environmentally as far as CO2 is concerned is unfair. And what we should do is incentivize them financially if we want them to cut at the same levels that we're cutting to save the world. Because I tell you what, we enriched ourselves with many of the third world's products, and at the same time, we polluted the atmosphere, adding value to the products we have exploited from other people, other countries, and now we want them to pay the price of that exploitation plus the CO2 that we put into the air to create this climate issue. Let's be fair. Let's be pragmatic. Let's make sure that we can all live in a world where fairness reigns. We should not ask others to do more than we are, given that we were the largest polluters of the carbon in the atmosphere. Most of that carbon in the atmosphere today was placed by the United States. Most of it that is in existence today was placed there by the United States of America. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.